Hi, it's Dr. Mann, OBGYN and lifestyle medicine. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and how I got into all of this. Something that you might have heard before, but I am trying to put together a book, and I realized that I'm not going to write it. I have to get a writer. And I took to making these recordings to facilitate finally getting the book written. So, a bit about myself. I've spent my entire adult life dieting and failing, losing weight, gaining weight, trying all different diets. Actually, as a teenager already, I had tried the Atkins diet, eating scrambled eggs and all of that, and boy, did that make me sick. And I tried Weight Watchers. I tried South Beach. I tried a lot of diets over the years. I tried counting calories, and I tried you name it. So basically, I had kind of given up, and I was taking a statin because both my parents have open heart surgery. So I was pretty scared, and I was overweight. Now, to give you an idea, I'm 5'5.5", let's say. So the most I ever weighed in my life was 237, and that was at the end of one of my pregnancies. My second to last pregnancy, actually. My last pregnancy, I had a preemie because I had placenta previa, and I would have died if it wasn't for modern medicine. So I'm very thankful that I survived that very difficult pregnancy. But the prior pregnancy, I went up to 237. My regular weight was around 214 after I gave birth. That was what I was able to manage with. And I would kind of go to 211 on good days. So I started this statin, it was around 2017, 2018, and I found that it gave me cravings for high-fat food. And that was weird because I really never had those kind of cravings. I started eating high-fat food. I have a first cousin who takes a statin and he eats whatever he wants, but he's skinny. I'm not skinny. So I'm eating meat and chicken, and all of this is just very strange. Okay, fast forward, went to my cardiologist, and the testing is always okay, but anyway, I did a cardiac catheterization because I always have vague complaints, and my EKG is not completely normal. I had this cardiac catheterization. My arteries were absolutely completely clear, so that was very thankful. Indeed, I was thankful. In December of 2018, I was reading my professional journal, the American Journal of OBGYN. Actually, it's not called that. It's called the Green Journal is what we call it, of the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. That the other journal I mentioned is the Gray Journal. And in there, they advertise about their annual clinical meeting where all the doctors come together and they have the meeting and they have keynote speakers. So the keynote speaker was a Dr. Garth Davis, who wrote a book called Proteinaholic, How Our Nation's Obsession with Meat is Killing Us. And I was really, really curious about that. And I said to myself, should I go to the conference? No, I'm not doing that. I Googled him, I downloaded his book, and the next day I turned my life over. I threw out all the food, I threw out my Crestor, and I made up my mind that I'm doing this because why is it that an otherwise completely disciplined individual cannot keep the weight under control and it's just not going well? And I really didn't know much about the microbiome. In fact, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology gives us 50 journal articles to read a year. During COVID, it was only 25. But in all these years of reading journal articles for my annual board recertification, never once did he feature an article on the human microbiome. How can that be? And I criticize ACOG for that, but they're not listening. In any case, I decided that I have to study all of this. I studied it very hard. And then I needed a doctor. So what did I do? I started looking around, plant-based doctors. I found the name of Michelle McMacken, who is a prominent name in the whole food plant-based scene and lifestyle medicine. But I could not get an appointment with her. Her private practice was closed. However, at that time, she was the director of the Bellevue program, which the Brooklyn Borough president at the time, Eric Adams, he gave a grant to start this clinic at Bellevue Hospital, Manhattan. So I just kind of decided, great, I'll just become a patient there. I need a doctor who understands about plant-based. My own doctor is a meat eater. By the way, he was terribly, terribly sick with COVID. He was in intensive care. Thank God he survived and lived to tell the tale. He's still my doctor. He's still got a belly, and he likes to joke around, but he could also benefit from plant-based. He's an excellent doctor. I told a story about him one time that the day after I'd eaten a lot of garlic, I went for a checkup, and he said, "You ate garlic. I smell it." So he's an excellent diagnostician and clinician. So I got on the waiting list at Bellevue, and eventually they called me, and I wanted Dr. McMacken, but they gave me Dr. Shah, and she's wonderful. So we became friendly. By then, I had gone from 219 pounds, which is what I was carrying around, down to about 178, all on my own. And I entered the clinic around 178 pounds. So we had these talks, and then I also got a coach and a dietitian, and the name of the coach is Chrisanne Polito Muller. Chrisanne is the one who hooked me up with Plant Powered Metro New York. I went a few more times to the clinic with my clinic card, and after a while my weight started to plateau at around 172, 173. And I used to express my disappointment to Dr. Shah about that. I tried to go lower, but it just didn't go. If I would try to do something to eat less or eat different or whatever, I felt deprived, and the weight didn't really come off either. And Dr. Shah told me that I should just make peace with it. She said it's okay, even though I'm still in the overweight category, and it was not my dream weight at all. Not at all. But I made peace with it, and I looked good, and people told me how I looked, and I felt comfortable in my body. I felt light. I felt airy. I felt like I was in control of my body instead of the other way around. And I lived like that for a few years, happy-go-lucky, until COVID started. And I was sick with COVID 3 times. So the first time I was sick, I lost my sense of smell. I had it in my chest. I got the antibodies infusion at that time. I was actually the 40th person at my institution to get the antibodies. Got better, had some long COVID, went away, had it again. I had COVID again, which was a short illness. The third time I had COVID was December of 2022. And again, it was a relatively mild illness, but somehow I never got better. I was coughing, I wasn't feeling right, I was a little bit tremulous, kind of, which is like a little shaky. And I knew that I wasn't better, and my son kept telling me, go to the doctor, you're not better, go to the doctor. And I kept saying, okay, so maybe if I have long COVID, so it's gonna have to take time. I'm not taking any of these medications. I'm simply not. So that January 2023, I was in the operating room doing a C-section on a Friday. I had not eaten because I don't eat much on Fridays anyway. And all of a sudden, after the baby was born, My world was turning black, and I realized I was fainting. And I tried to shake it out, and I couldn't shake it out. I had to walk away from the OR table. I left the resident doctor there. Thankfully, the bleeding was under control. And I sat down on a low stool, and I waited for it to pass. And it passed a little bit, and I got up. I tried to go back to the OR table, but I wasn't able to. I was blacking out again. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm blacking out. I need to be escorted out of here, please. And 2 nurses escorted me out of the OR and brought me into the doctor's lounge, and I flopped onto the couch, and I lay there about 20 minutes until I regained myself. I went back into the OR, and they had called a fellow in, and he finished up the C-section for me. And I sat there and I watched the C-section, and it went well. And then I realized something dreadfully wrong, because I have never fainted in my life. And I said, I have to take care of it. I need blood work. I have to know what's going on. The next week, I had to give a talk, a very big one. I had been arranging it for already a few months to 150 women in my community about lifestyle medicine. And there were 3 speakers, and Leanna Levine Reisner was coming from Planned Parenthood Metro New York. And I had the mayor's office coming. By then, Eric Adams had become the mayor. And we had a panel discussion, and it was such a big event. And I knew that I didn't want to know what was wrong with me until I finished that event. So the event was a tremendous success. We recorded it, but unfortunately the recording is very poor quality. It wasn't really fit to be published. We'll do it again. So after that, I went to the doctor, and my numbers, my blood work, everything was completely off. My inflammatory markers were so high, out of this world. My D-dimer, which is a reflection of the viral illness, was high. I was anemic. I'm never anemic, very anemic. My cholesterol had plummeted to 120, my total cholesterol. Can you imagine? And what was so interesting was my TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone, was undetectable, and my thyroid hormone was off the roof. And my cardiologist did not put the picture together. Basically, he sent me to the oncologist to find out why I was all of a sudden anemic, the hematology oncology. And the hematologist said that there's something wrong, you have something wrong with you, but it's not cancer, and you're anemic because your body is inflamed and you're just not able to make red blood cells. And that's probably why I fainted, due to the anemia and the fact that I hadn't eaten that day. So then I finally wound up in the endocrinologist's office, and she said to me, you have subacute thyroiditis. I said to her, oh, I remember I read about that in medical school. What is that? I forgot. She said, subacute thyroiditis is after a virus, a viral illness. It could be COVID. It could be any virus, but now COVID is prominent. Your thyroid actually goes into failure. It's thyroid failure. It's almost like a dart gun was shot into the thyroid gland. And all the thyroid hormone that is stored in your gland, which is a lot, because the way the thyroid gland works is it makes a lot of thyroid hormone, and then it releases it slowly as you need it, according to the stimulation. The thyroid stimulation hormone will determine the amount of thyroid hormone that's released. But because the thyroid literally died, it was like a heart attack in the thyroid, all the thyroid hormone stored was dumped into my bloodstream, and I became hyperthyroid. What is hyperthyroid? It means your body's on overdrive. And I realized that all the symptoms made sense. I was losing weight without trying. I had no appetite. I was jittery. My heart rate, which is usually around 60, was 90. My blood pressure was low. I was sick from head to toe. I couldn't eat. I was barely able to get in one meal a day. I had no appetite. And until I figured out something that would go into me, there was a certain bakery in Borough Park. They make this Bukharian bread. They have this tanur, this special oven where they place the bread on the wall of the oven. Somehow I figured out in my head I'd be able to eat that. It's not whole food plant-based. It was made with white flour, but somehow it went in, and I was able to eat eggs, hard-boiled eggs, also not plant-based, and oranges. And I ate that for days, and I only ate one meal a day, and I'm losing weight. So my regular weight, which was 172, 173, I went down to around 158 because I wasn't eating. I couldn't eat. I had to take off from work. I was very sick. I was really very, very, probably the sickest in my life, besides the time that I had C. difficile, which is another story. So the doctor said to me, she's lovely, she said, "Don't worry, Melinda. The chances are that your thyroid is going to recover, and probably fully. Very few patients who get subacute thyroiditis go into permanent thyroid failure. But you will go through a phase where you will be hypothyroid." Now, in addition to that, she also sent me for a radioactive thyroid scan to make sure I didn't have a hot nodule. Of course, that was negative, and I didn't really want to do it because it was radioactive material. But I said, you know what? She's a doctor. I'm so sick. I'm going to swallow it. And I did, and I didn't light up. But people stayed away from me. And I had the scan, and thankfully it was negative. So why am I so upset? And why am I even telling this whole story? Why people are interested? Like, am I Chef AJ? You want to hear my story? Okay? No, I'm not Chef AJ. I'm Dr. Mam. But I have a story. And I want to put it in my book. So this is a way of getting it recorded so it will get into the book. After the thyroid hormone cleared my system, I became hypothyroid. Now, what's the great characteristic of hypothyroid? Unwanted weight gain. And I became, I don't want to say depressed, but it was like a crisis for me because I had worked so hard to get to a normal weight. And I was so inspired. I took my boards in lifestyle medicine, and I knew what was coming. I knew that just as I had lost the weight, I was going to gain weight that I didn't want to gain. And there was no way out of it because I wasn't able to eat normally. I was still sick. And after a while, I was able to eat 2 meals a day. And then eventually I was able to eat a third meal. And again, my appetite was deranged, but slowly, I remember once I was at work and I hadn't put a blueberry in my mouth for a really long time. And the nurse, Devorah Shulman, came in and she saw me eating blueberries and she looked at me. And I said, "Devorah, I can eat blueberries again. I haven't eaten these in so long." It was just a crazy, crazy illness. And I was so profoundly affected by the illness that the doctor who's taking care of me, she's the chief of endocrine where I work, she said she wanted to publish me as a case study. I was really sick. Thankfully, I stayed out of the hospital. I truly believe I stayed out of the hospital because my baseline pulse is around 60. So when I was tachycardic or I had a higher heart rate, I was 90, but that's still within the normal range. A lot of people who become hyperthyroid, their pulse can go into the 120s and even higher. And then they start to need medication and they're sick and all sorts of complications and ripple effects. But thankfully, I was able to avoid that. So getting back to the eventuality of my gaining weight, it happened. And I became so upset because I said, How am I going to promote whole food plant-based when I'm dumpy? I have my own personal struggle right now. I was hyperthyroid, now I'm hypothyroid, gaining back weight, people are going to think that the reason why I gained back the weight is because whole food plant-based doesn't really work, or I fell off the wagon. That's what they're going to think about me. And I'm embarrassed to go around with these extra pounds. Because really, I'm 173. That's my weight. That's my best weight. That's my weight on whole food plant-based. It was very discouraging. And even though I really haven't changed the way I eat, I did gain weight. And I'm up to around 190 now. So I have to lose the weight. And I'm clueless about how to do it because I'm still mostly following whole food plant-based. I never did it 100% because I didn't want people to think I was strange or weird or whatever. And I also want to be very inclusive. I want people who are willing to do it 90 or 95% to gather them into my circle and know that that's really amazing and that's great. And for those people to be encouraged and not to feel like they failed because they're only doing it 95%. Actually, 95% is what the American College of Lifestyle Medicine recommends. So here I am gaining weight, still not back to eating, and my thyroid is slowly recovering. Very slowly. And I'm gaining weight. And getting discouraged and upset. And just trying to make peace with it. Trying to make peace and making a decision that even if I look dumpy, I'm going to continue to spread the message because there's really no other way. Go keto? Are you kidding me? Keto is for sick people. Keto is for sick diabetics in the hospital. That's ketosis. That's what I learned in medical school. Don't give me any more eating scrambled eggs and all. It's absurd. It's absurd. What should I do? Count calories? I can't do anything like that now. I just have to eat my regular whole food plant-based. So fast forward, my thyroid tests have been showing normal for quite a few months, and I can't shake the weight. So I decided I'm going to go to Dr. Dunayev. He's here in Brooklyn. He is board certified in lifestyle medicine, and he does integrative medicine. So I went to him, and he told me, I'm sure you're going to lose 20 pounds. Great. You know what's so interesting is that I always had much more than 20 pounds to lose. My whole life, I had to lose a lot more than that. So I never went back to 219. I still kept a majority of the weight off. I'm still in a much better situation. My hemoglobin A1C, the last one was 5.3. And that's really amazing. It had gone as high as 5.9 at one time. My blood pressure is normal. My pulse is back to 60, which is good for me. My cholesterol is a little more than it ought to be. It's like around 190, and my LDL is 107. But I think that hopefully we'll get these 20 pounds off, that my cholesterol is going to do better. My inflammatory markers are absolutely normal. So my internist is quite satisfied with how I'm doing from a cardiometabolic standpoint. So I went to Dr. Dunayev, and he orders all these kind of wacky tests, stuff that regular doctors don't order. But one of the things that he did order was a parathyroid hormone. And guess what? My parathyroid hormone is elevated. I have never tested my parathyroid hormone. What is parathyroid hormone, also known as PTH? There are little glands that sit inside your thyroid. They're called parathyroid hormone, and they are involved in the homeostasis, which means the balance of calcium in the body. They help balance calcium in the body. So you need to have a certain amount of calcium in your bloodstream in order for your metabolic processes to work properly. So the PTH, parathyroid hormone, is responsible for ensuring that your body has the right amount of calcium in the bloodstream. So if you have extra calcium, it'll be stored in the bones, let's say. If you have low calcium, then the PTH will go up and calcium will be removed from the bone or other organs, let's say, in order to supply calcium to the bloodstream. So I have something now called normal calcemic hyperparathyroidism. Hyperparathyroidism. Normal calcemic hyperparathyroidism, which means my calcium is normal, but my parathyroid hormone is elevated. What does that mean? It means those glands are working hard, trying to keep my calcium in balance. Now, I started to think very deeply into this. Could this be related to the fact that I'm not getting back to my weight? Really, it's not supposed to. But on the other hand, if you're not really totally in balance, maybe one thing influences the other. I don't know. So I started thinking about it, really, how much calcium do I have? You know, they say that vegans are at risk for certain deficiencies. One of them being vitamin D. My vitamin D was 30. It was okay. I popped vitamin D here and there. My iodine was just under the cutoff for normal. So I am starting to show these minor problems. I don't want to call them problems, but consequences more of eating whole food plant-based. And I was rather smug about it. I didn't think that it could affect me, but it could be it is affecting me, and I have to face that. Now, what's a major source of calcium in the diet is, for most of us, some sort of dairy and leafy greens. I have not eaten as much leafy greens as I should. Why? It's not so available because we don't eat bugs and we have to wash our leafy greens, and it's work to try to get the salad dressing going, these fat-free, oil-free salad dressings. And so I always was thinking more in the leafy greens, more like eating anything green. So I eat a lot of green food, but I don't eat a lot of leafy greens. So I started to say to myself, you know, you're really not doing whole food plant-based perfectly. You don't eat enough leafy greens, and obviously you're not eating dairy. And I really stopped with those fortified milks, because those plant milks, because some of the plant milks, they have emulsifiers in them, and I don't want the emulsifiers. It's not good for your microbiome. Not only that, I would buy a container of milk and I would wind up throwing it out a lot. So what I did instead was I bought some raw almond butter, and occasionally I would use that instead of plant milk. I would make like a quickie kind of, I would call solution, you know, I'm a doctor. Like a little bit of milk out of some raw almond butter and water, and stir it up, and I would have something like that to add to a recipe. I'm not really a cereal and milk person, because to me it's just like you can keep shoveling cereal and milk in your mouth. So it's something that I try not to do. So I wasn't really having any fortified milks, not so many leafy greens, and no dairy. Now, I'm still waiting to see Dr. Dunayev, but I tried a little experiment. It turned out that I also had a tooth pulled, and I had to take a lot of antibiotics for it, which of course I was very upset about. I didn't want to take them. And I said to myself, what am I doing here? All these antibiotics. I need something to help build my gut bacteria back. But somehow, since this whole thing with my thyroid, I'm much more the kind of person like, I don't feel like eating this, or I do feel like eating that, and I just was not in a mood for fermented vegetables. Somehow my body was telling me, you need yogurt. That's the food of choice for you. But I will not eat any American yogurt. I will not eat any yogurt from any cow. And I want to say one other thing, which is, how do you know someone's really eating whole food plant-based? I'll tell you how you know. If they have a low white blood cell count. Because someone who's eating whole food plant-based the real way, in general, their inflammatory markers are going to be low and their white blood cell count is going to be low. My white blood cell count is 4,000. That's pretty low. Dr. Dunayev said it could be even lower, but I proudly go around telling people that my white blood cell count is 4,000. And it shows that I've really been sticking to it. It's already over 5 years. Getting back to this yogurt issue, I said to myself, I need to do something. And I took all these antibiotics and my body is talking to me that I need yogurt. Maybe I'm going to listen. And I made a decision that I was going to try eating some yogurt. But I'm not eating just any yogurt. I called my son who lives in Israel and I said, can you please send me some of that goat's yogurt or sheep's yogurt, that organic one, from the goats that eat the scruff on the mountainside, because I wasn't willing to eat anything from here in the United States. So they sent me some goat yogurt. I hope I'm not going to get arrested by Border Patrol now for telling you this story. He sent me some of this goat's yogurt, and I started eating a little bit every day. And I made up my mind that I was going to do it for a limited period of time until I felt better. And what I did was, in the interim, I was afraid that maybe my PTH was false. It was a false value, because as a physician, I know that you can send off labs and they're spurious. Sometimes you get a spurious result. What does it mean? It means it's completely wrong. For example, one of my sons once, I ran a hemoglobin A1C on him, which I'm sure you all know is the test for diabetes, and it came back 8. And I knew he wasn't diabetic. And I called my friend, the internist. I said, Shira, what's going on here? His hemoglobin A1C is 8. I'm having a panic attack. She said, oh no, Melinda, it's a lab error. Just do it again. And we did it again. It was fine. So I was hoping that maybe the PTH was a mistake. So I drew it again. This is after I had been on that yogurt for a few days. And the PTH was still abnormally high, but it was closer to the normal range. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So finally, I had to wait for an appointment with the endocrinologist, who also deals with parathyroid hormone. And I went to her last week, and we were going over my diet. And she said, Melinda, you're just not getting enough calcium in your diet, and this might be secondary hyperparathyroidism, secondary to low calcium intake. And she said, maybe you're getting osteoporosis because your parathyroid is working on overdrive and it's maintaining your serum calcium at a normal level, but maybe at the expense of your bones. I said, very interesting. And she said, what about your leafies? I said, I don't get enough. It's so difficult. It's not available. I have to drive out of my way. I don't have time to wash them. She said, you need to eat leafy greens. You want to be vegan, you've got to eat leafy greens. So we're going to make an experiment now. She wanted me to take a calcium supplement. Really, I don't like taking pills. It's just the way I am. It's like a big deal for me to take my vitamin D. I know I have to do it. So I do that. And I know I'm going to have to fix the iodine. I'm waiting to see Dr. Dunayev to decide what to do about the iodine. So we're making an experiment. For 6 weeks, I'm going to take a serving of my goat's yogurt, plain goat's yogurt, no sugar added. And I'm going to try to step up my leafy greens. And I'm not going to take a calcium supplement, even though she wants me to, because I'm stubborn. And I'm going to recheck my parathyroid in 6 weeks. Now, I want to tell you another thing. Really, I didn't want to eat any dairy at all because of a few reasons. One, I don't think American dairy is healthy. It's pro-inflammatory for the most part. And I don't particularly like it. So I just don't want to really get involved with dairy. And so I tried all of the vegan yogurts, the kosher ones, which is a lot. And when I was eating the vegan yogurt, even if it had cultures added to it, it wasn't having that impact. It wasn't sour enough. It's very hard to explain. It didn't, when I ate it, I just felt like it was a substitute for the real thing. I could not see myself eating fermented vegetables because I just wasn't feeling myself. Could be still I have a little bit of long COVID there, I'm not really sure. So I realized I'm going to have to go for the goat's yogurt, but I'm going to do it for a limited amount of time. When I eat that yogurt, I feel very healthy. It's akin to some of these blue zones that eat that kind of yogurt. So I'm doing it. I'm confessing. I hope that I won't be condemned for confessing that this is my experiment. And I made up my mind, I'm going to go to Uri's on Avenue U twice a week. It's completely out of my way. I'm going to buy big boxes of pre-washed greens, and I'm going to make smoothies because that's what the whole world does. And I truly believe that smoothies are not the way human beings are supposed to eat, no matter what anybody says. The only way we can eat a smoothie is by using a high-speed blender, or a blender, but it's not the way food's supposed to be eaten. But I decided I'm giving in because the last thing I want is to have surgery to remove my parathyroid glands because I don't get enough calcium in my diet because I'm a vegan, okay? So, of course, I went to the store on Thursday, and I don't know, they were all sold out. I got a box of spinach and that was it. So, this is how life goes, right? I ate up the whole box of spinach already. I happen to love spinach. So I have to go to Uri's. I have to get pre-washed vegetables. I have to make smoothies. And for the next 6 weeks, I plan on eating this unique yogurt, which, according to my endocrinologist, is only going to give me about 250 milligrams of calcium in the serving. And the same thing with the leafy greens, and that's why she wants me to take a pill. But I'm not going to take a pill yet. I'm going to do my own experiment, and I will let you know what happens with that experiment. So I really feel like I shared very personal information tonight, but I want everyone to know where I'm coming from. Talking too much. And I want everyone to realize that it's not just about whether or not you eat a serving of yogurt because you had antibiotics and now you want to try to fix your situation on a temporary basis. Let me tell you what I ate today. I ate beans. I ate dal, which is a little white bean that actually has the skin removed. It's cut in half, and it's a South Asian bean that's very popular, and they could use it to make idlis. I educated myself all about Idlis, you can all have a good laugh. You could look it up. It's spelled Idli, but I don't do idlis because I'm not Indian. So I just boil them and I eat them. They boil up in about 20 minutes. It's one of my fast cooking beans that I like to have because I like fresh. I had that. I had eggplant and cauliflower today. I had spaghetti squash today. And I had a lot of good healthy food today. And I had the yogurt too because my doctor is telling me they have to fix my calcium. And this was my personal decision about how to try to fix it. I really haven't changed the way I eat. I'm not eating meat and I'm not eating chicken. And I only eat 1 can of sardines on Shabbos. And yes, I eat the cholent and I eat a thumbnail's worth of meat on Saturday day. And sometimes I eat challah on Shabbos. But my entire week is whole food, plant-based. Do I eat a little halva? Yes, I had that on a previous video. Do I eat chocolate? Yes. And I actually upped my chocolate now to 85%. My favorite brand is Taza. I'm telling you, if you're having trouble going 85% chocolate, try the Taza discs. I just ordered a whole case of them because it's not so easy to find, etc., etc. I thank you for listening. This was a 41-minute video. It's going to go up on YouTube. And I hope no one is going to judge me because I didn't feel as if I had any other option right now, having tried other ways of making myself feel better after what I've been through the last year and a half. It's been really a challenge because I've never really been sick like that, with this roller coaster ride with my thyroid and now my parathyroid. So I'm sort of like a guinea pig here. I'm gonna let you know if my PTH normalizes on this way that I'm eating, and I will take it from there. Thank you very much for listening.